Hey everybody, welcome to the Lot1 Podcast. My name is Deji Bancole.
And I'm Chris.
Today we're talking to Angelyn Rodriguez. She is a post-production PA at Marvel Studios. Yep, that's the one, Marvel Studios, the big one. Today we talk about how she got her foot in the door and to get that job and other jobs as well. Let's get into the show. Today we have Angelyn Rodriguez. Thanks so much for coming to the show today. For the people who don't know who you are, can you give us a little brief bio?
Hey everybody, I'm Angelyn. I am a post-production assistant at Marvel Studios, a very green industry worker. So I hope that I have some kind of knowledge to share with y'all. But it's I'm navigating the industry with you. So
aren't we all?
Yeah.
That's great.
Will we ever figure it out? I don't know.
These are the burning questions that we all want to know. Will we ever figure out the industry? So before you got into the industry, like, where did you start? Like, how did you know you wanted to be in this?
I didn't know I wanted to be in it until I actually went into college. So I originally applied to colleges as a psychology major because I wanted to be a physical therapist. And then my mom, who works in home health, she had me talk to a bunch of therapists, and they were like, you have to get a doctorate, you have to go to school for 12 years, it's just a lot of schooling. And then I was like that's cool, I love helping people, I just don't know if I can go to school for that long to do something that I don't feel very passionate about. So the summer right before I started my freshman year of college, I was like, what do I like doing? Because I need to switch my major now before I waste any more money and time. I was like, I kind of like editing. I started on literally Windows Movie Maker when I was younger. I would make little skits with my siblings.
Same.
Yeah. I was like, oh, I kind of like doing this, and I would make vlogs during the summer. I guess I'll try it out. Let me see if I can make a living out of this little hobby. When I got into school, I was pretty much one of the only editors there. So most people wanted to be directors, actors, writers. But because I was the only one of the only editors, they would always choose me to edit projects. And I was like, yeah,
you got a lot of work.
I really like this. Yeah.
Yeah. That's cool. When you were in college, going for psychology, did you actually was it a bit scary to realize you didn't want to do that, and you were in this moment of well, what do I do next?
I think my entire life I've kind of been set up to be successful in a way that would make me a lot of money so that I could support my family, my future family, and my parents when they're older. And so that was just kind of I had a one-track mind. I was like, okay, I'm just gonna do what makes me the most money. I felt like I was kind of brainwashed because I didn't know what I enjoyed doing. And so to go from something that I know for sure would make me not successful but financially stable into something that is so not financially stable, it's just contract work all the time, was definitely scary. It's how am I going to live? How am I going to raise kids if I'm going to be looking for a job basically my entire life or the rest of my life? Yeah. But I kind of just leaped into it because why not? Because I like it so much.
Yeah.
It's half the battle is liking what you do, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. It's interesting because I think a lot of people really have a hard time making the switch, especially when their lives are like sort of geared towards one way, and then they make a decision that does not seem practical at all for like making money. I mean, this is not the career you want to get into if you want to make money, like a
Yeah.
lot of money, like because it's just not going to happen for most of us, So,
Yeah.
So what do your parents think now that you made that switch? Were they supportive of it? Were they a little hard on it? Do you not talk to them anymore?
They were definitely supportive of it. I think
that's good.
my dad was the one that was like kind of urging me to think about and just discern what I like doing because yeah, so they're very supportive. They think it's really cool. Like I think when I was first getting into it after college, it was a little bit harder to understand like, oh, like why don't you have a job yet? Like
Yeah.
But I think once I got into like an actual studio, they were like, all right, cool. Like she knows what she's doing. So
Yeah.
Yeah, the name legitimized it.
Yeah, I was
Yeah.
gonna say they recognize that studio.
Yeah, I could relate to that a lot, actually. It's like my dad's always been super supportive. My sister's super supportive. My stepmom is super supportive. But it's like, I feel like until they can like tangibly see the success, like whether it's on the big screen, on a streaming service, or there's a title attached to it, I think that they'll for always be just like, are you, you could have done tech like me, and you'd be very happy and safe. And it's like, yeah,
Right.
but like, that's not what I want to do. Like,
Yeah.
which they've been supportive of, but it's been very like kind of double-sided in that way where it's like, parents just want to see their kids be okay.
Yeah.
Right.
And I totally get it. Like it's what they know. And I feel like it might just be my family, but we don't really have creative jobs. Like a lot of our family was like military. A lot of them are tech or in the healthcare industry. So it's just like they know that the money's there, but then it's like this whole other like what is that? Like you're just recording like on your phone, and then like how do you make money off of that?
I
I
ask
don't think
myself that question every day. Don't worry.
I don't think they know what I do. But they know that I'm living in LA by myself, so it must be a good sign.
Yeah, I mean, if anybody's living in LA by themselves, they're making enough money to live somewhere else very comfortably.
Yeah.
Although you may not be living in LA very comfortably, but you can take that same salary anyways. Getting a job right after college was pretty difficult, but how did you sort of go about that process, and what did you do to get that first job?
It was very different because I graduated during the pandemic, so it was very, very, very
helpful.
quiet. Yeah. So nothing was going on. I originally wanted to get into the animation industry, so I kind of just reached out to people on LinkedIn, like just cold messaged a bunch of people in animation and was like, hey, like I just graduated. Would you mind doing like a coffee chat over Zoom? Which made it a lot easier to meet a lot of people just because I didn't have to go out and like get coffee. We could just hop on a Zoom and just connect there. And most people were just also not really doing much, so it was easier to meet up. So I did a lot of that. I feel like my approach to job searching during the time was a little calculated. Not a little calculated. It was very calculated. I had like a spreadsheet of people that I would meet, and I'd put like a date, like when did I talk to them? What did I say? What did I learn about them? Just a lot of information. And I spent more time doing that than I did just like applying to jobs. Which is funny because my first job was actually just a cold apply, so it didn't really, I guess the networking thing didn't really get my foot in the door. It was just pure luck. But yeah, so that's how I got into my Buzzfeed job.
Nice. So it's funny because Mina, our producer, also did something very similar where she and her friend both called every day and then had spreadsheets like
Hmm.
that she was keeping track of all the things, and I was like, it's pretty good,
Yeah.
And so the first job that you got was from BuzzFeed. What was that
Yeah.
experience like?
So I was an assistant editor at Buzzfeed. They use Premiere, but I know how to use Premiere, but I wasn't like an expert at it because I
It
was
wasn't
mostly
Microsoft
using.
Movie Maker, right? So it
No.
was very difficult. They're very different.
I was like, okay, let me just wing it. So luckily I had this lead assistant editor who kind of trained a bunch of the AEs there. And we had like a week of training time. So yeah, it was kind of like a good first step into, I guess it's not really entertainment, it's more social media, but
Hmm.
um, just like post production. It was very quiet there because it was still the pandemic.
Yeah.
And we could work from home. So they gave us like laptops and just all the equipment, drives we needed.
Yeah.
Um, but sometimes we would have to go in because we had to like ingest media that the producers from Tasty would just leave at the office. So
Hmm.
that's when we would have to go in and then we'd prep those projects and then yeah, but it was very quiet.
Nice.
It was a very small team and I think the only people that were in the office were AEs because we had to ingest the media.
Oh, interesting. So for people who don't know what ingesting media is, do you mind explaining that?
Yeah. So a camera records with an SD card, and you take it and then you put it in your computer, then you copy it onto a drive or the computer.
Hmm.
So that's kind of like ingesting media. And then you take that and put it into your editing software
Hmm.
um, so that you can start editing.
Nice.
The Lot1 Podcast is brought to you by the Tourist Hat Coffee Company. You know what keeps me running on those long film sets, Stagey?
What's that, Chris?
Coffee. And you know what's the worst thing ever?
A swift kick in the pants.
No, bad coffee. So that's why I choose Tourist Hat Coffee Company's high quality coffee beans. Their artisan roasted single origin coffee and handcrafted blends are so much better than those stale stuff you get from those other brands.
Yeah, those things are bad.
Tourist Hat Coffee Company's coffee is artisan roasted, micro roasted, single origin, and their small batch roaster that handcrafts their blends to maximize peak freshness upon delivery. Family owned and operated. What more could you ask for from a coffee company, Deji?
I literally can't think of anything else.
If you're still not sold, a portion of each purchase goes towards contributing to some of their favorite nonprofit organizations, such as Animation Dance Community, Seeds of Hope International, and Beautiful Gate Orphanage.
These guys are good.
Make Tourist Hat Coffee Company your new go-to quality coffee choice with our exclusive offer for you, the Lot1 Podcast listener.
Oh, listen up, guys.
First-time customers can use the code LOT1BOGO at checkout to receive one free bag of coffee when you buy two. That's right, Deji, buy two, get one free.
Whoa.
So head on over to touristhatcoffeecompany.com and use promo code LOT1BOGO at checkout. Again, that is LOT1 BOGO at checkout. Whether you work in the film industry or not and want a delicious cup of coffee, this is the perfect time to stock up on your favorite blends of coffee or try something new. I know I'll be brewing Tourist Hat on my sets moving forward, Deji. Again, that's promo code LOT1 BOGO, LOT1 BOGO at checkout to claim your buy two, get one free. Terms and conditions apply. Tourist Hat, coffee that fuels your adventure. Pandemic's happening, it's a little bit more relaxed. Were you still required to follow like a why can't I think of the word? Like I'm gonna label all the files this way, or was that already pre-done by their DIT? Is that something you had to do? Did you have to follow like a book of like it has to be this way, or was it like the Wild West where you just like, no, as long as I deliver, it doesn't matter?
Like, so the lead assistant editor had made documents on documents about naming files, how to ingest stuff, transcoding footage, like just all of this. It was just it was super organized, which I appreciated. And we also had a remote workflow at the time because all the editors were remote, so we had to like upload to Google Drive, and they had all of their videos on Google Drive.
Wow.
And yeah, so it was just
They
like the
use
way
Google
that they
Drive? That's crazy.
yeah.
I was expecting some other like editing program for transferring files, but you know,
Oh
I guess
no.
I don't feel as bad anymore using Google Drive because I was like, oh, I can't wait to get a better program in the future. But if BuzzFeed was using it, like, wow.
Yeah. They did have like a software. I can't remember the name of it, but instead of just dragging stuff into Google Drive or the whole project into Google Drive, you would put it into the software and it would transfer it for you. So it had like check files. So it would make sure it was secure and all good. But yeah, Google Drive. Everything was on Google Drive.
That's crazy.
Nice. So after you were at BuzzFeed, what's the next job? How long were you there for?
I was there for, I want to say 6-ish months.
Yeah.
So not very long.
And then what's the next place that you went to?
And then I became a post-production assistant for History of the World Part 2.
Oh, nice. Nice.
Yeah.
What was that like?
It was my actual foot in the door, I think.
Yeah.
So the post PA job came from a connection. And she was like, hey, this show at 20th is looking for a post PA. Do you want to do it? And I was like, I mean, not really, because I want to edit, but yeah, I'll give it a shot. Like, if it gets my foot in the door, like, I'll do it, and I'm sure I'll learn a lot. So being a post PA was also interesting because it was still the pandemic, so we were all remote. I didn't get to really meet my team until we were like in mixes or in like ADR and stuff, and working with producers. Yeah, it was just like a lot of learning. I had no idea what a post PA did, and I didn't really know that the job existed. So I kind of just went into it being like, okay, I'm just going to do whatever my post producer and what my post cord tell me to do.
Yeah.
And then, yeah, like I didn't know that post PAs got lunches because we weren't like in office. I didn't know that they did crafty runs. I didn't know that they like updated spreadsheets or anything. So I just kind of did what I was told to do, but also did whatever I knew was going on. Like I would just try to help as much as I could. I think the experience went well because I had a really good and helpful team. And my post producer knew that I didn't have any post experience, so she kind of just mentored me and let me take a chance on this girl who like is so new, and it was just like a very fun experience. Also, it's like I didn't know who Mel Brooks was, or I didn't know much about sketch comedy, so
yeah,
it was fun learning about that.
Yeah,
it's always cool to have like a team with you who have been there or understand what it's like being there, and then they're willing to help you get to that next step or like teach you. Because I've had plenty of experiences where I've like shown up and like every set is so different and every producer works so differently that like I always try to digest the way that they do it before I start like giving suggestions or doing what I would do.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes I've had a lot of like resistance of like, hey, I have this great idea that this would work, and then it's like, oh no, you don't know anything, like you're just a PA or whatever. And it's like, okay, cool, whatever, it was a good idea either way. I do work other than just PA. So yeah, that's awesome that you had a group that were willing to do that for you. And if I remember correctly, I think that Rocky, who was on the podcast before, had a similar experience where the post people were just super super down to like try and help you on to the next step.
Yeah. They asked me for creative notes and also let me do like temp graphics or just write. They have this like bit where they have like a Twitch stream, and they let me write all the comments, they let me write all the usernames, and then just like didn't have to go through approvals. It was like we trust you, so like
That's
can you
cool.
do this? They gave me a lot of really cool tasks that I feel like not a lot of PAs get to do.
Yeah.
And yeah, just super helpful. But I feel very grateful that they took a chance on me because I feel spoiled.
How did you go from that job to the next job? Was it another connection? Because before you mentioned that, like, it was a recommendation. That's how you got into this one.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Is that how you got into the second one, the next one too?
Yeah. So the editor that I worked with, one of the editors on History of the World, her name is Stephanie Philo. She works on a Black Lady sketch show primarily. So she did like every season, and she did season 4, and they didn't have a PA, so she kind of just brought me on there.
Well, yeah, they had the need.
Yeah.
They realized.
Yeah.
Because you've been a post PA for other jobs, right? And we'll get to those in a second. But how is it different being a PA during the pandemic when you're remote mostly?
I think it helped me learn a lot more about the post-production workflow just because I wasn't getting coffees for people or getting lunches or doing a lot of like office coordinating. So there was a lot of overlap. Like I would do post PA like data tracking or like just updating spreadsheets and doing like stock trackers or talking to legal or a lot of stuff that I feel like coordinators would do, and then coordinators would do what supervisors would do, which is like VFX stuff, and yeah. So I think it was really helpful because I got to learn a lot.
So it freed up opportunity for you then.
Yeah,
That's cool.
Yeah, because those are definitely not post PA tasks. Like,
yeah. It was funny because when I did my Marvel interview, they were like, and this Marvel job is in person, so they were like, oh, like we definitely don't have that many things for you to do. Like you've done way more than we expected you to know how to do. So
yeah,
like
you're like overqualified.
Yeah. I think at the end of the day, I really like post-PAing because it made the post-production workflow a little bit lighter and easier. Anything I could do to make it easier for the people on my team, like I'm happy to do it. Like if that means like somebody wants a particular color of Post-it notes, like I'm running to my car, like going to Staples. Yeah, like at the end of the day, like that is the most rewarding part, is like making other people happy. So yeah.
So we haven't really touched on, you kind of like said some things, but like in a bigger production house, post-production house, what is like a post-production PA's like job duties? Like to support the team, obviously, but like on an average day, what does your day entail?
So we'll do like 2 coffee runs a day. But also because our team is so big, it takes a little bit of time to like get everybody's orders. And that goes for like lunch and dinners too. So a lot of my day is like making sure people are nourished and caffeinated. Other than that, I feel a lot like a office coordinator. So if they need like a piece of furniture, I'm there to coordinate that. I also have been helping a lot with technical stuff because our editors are remote sometimes. So they have like at-home avids that remote into like our on-site avids.
Hey movie buffs, it's Deji. When the mics are off, we spill the beans on the Lot1 Podcast after show, only on Patreon. So, if you like getting early access to episodes, sipping tea, hearing untold stories of behind-the-scenes magic, connecting with filmmakers, and more, hit us up on Patreon at patreon.com/Lot1 Podcast, and we'll be sipping tea together. When people hear Marvel, they think, oh, this is a huge company, that's amazing. How did you get there? That would be probably a big question I feel like people would ask when I ask, is like, how did you get in the door as a post-production PA?
I got in through the same editor that took me to a Black Lady sketch show. She heard that Marvel needed a post PA, so she kind of threw my name in the ring, and that's how it went. It basically like connections.
It's really who you know in this
Yeah.
industry. Yeah. It's like the like whole LinkedIn thing during COVID. I'm sure that like directly you don't think that that's done anything, but I think indirectly there's probably something in the background that you just never knew about or won't know about till like 2 years from now or whatever that may turn up, because I have old connections that just pop out of nowhere and like, hey, can you be on this thing? And I'll be like, sure. Hey, haven't talked to you in forever, but you know.
Yeah. Yeah, it's interesting because I heard a lot of, when I was job searching, my dad was like, you need to talk to more people. Like, you just need to meet as many people as possible. And I'm like, okay, it's easy to. So let me just like make friends with a lot of these people. And it kind of worked out. I guess in my case, it was somebody that I met when I was already on a project. But yeah, same experience, like people that I've reached out to when I was a little 20-year-old, just newly graduated. They'll be like, hey, what are you doing? Like, do you need a job? I need you.
Nice. That's great.
But yeah, networking is key.
I think another thing that you that probably helped you do the section where you're doing the your Excel spreadsheet and putting people's names in and reaching out intentionally and being very strategic about it, was that it probably put you in the right mindset. Because I think when you're on set, like, I have a friend who has been doing some background acting, and he started to just, everywhere he went, every set he went on to, he just started to talk to everybody. And I was like, yeah. And I was like, hey, like, you should do this, maybe that. And then he started just doing it. And like, I was surprised that, like, one day he hit me up. He was like, yeah, man, like, I talked to like this coordinator and he told me what to do over here. And he says, oh, please send me your reel and all that kind of stuff. And I was like, man, you're starting to make some connections, like, just because if you're already there, like, if you're in the room with the people, then that's like the best time to start to connect with them, and because that, you never know when your next job is going to happen, so
the saying, like, right place, right time. It's like, you can always, the right time will come. You just have to keep yourself in the right place so that when those two align, that's when an opportunity blossoms. So yeah, it's like making a bunch of friends. It's fun.
Yeah, totally. What do you believe the essence of editing is?
I kind of want to say editing is like influencing. They take the footage that they have and they manipulate it in a way and mold it so that you feel something. You can really make someone feel something just by the shots that you choose or how long you stay on a shot. And I think that's a very beautiful thing.
Nice. You make a film 3 times: when you write it, when you make it, and when you edit it.
I think it's like a really cool thing that you're doing, editing, because I don't enjoy that process, that specific process. I mean, I like making the movie or making projects, but editing is just so, like, I feel like you have to have a particular sort of mind for that,
A good editor can really support a director. Like, like finding a really good editor to kind of give their own twist and take on it, I think is such a key thing in the production process. So yeah, for
Yeah.
sure.
In college we did these like short film, like thesis short films, and my editors would kind of, or not my editors, my directors would look to me to make sure that, not like, one, that we were getting everything we needed coverage wise, but two, making sure that the story made sense and that I was able to enhance it and mold it once we got to post. So just coverage wise with the camera, and also coverage with actors and blocking and stuff.
Yeah. You've sort of gone down this path. You started off in college wanting to be an editor, and then you've, done multiple jobs where you're, in post-production, and you've edited things in the past. But you said that you may not want to be an editor anymore.
Yeah.
And I'm just curious, like, why?
When I did my first post PA job on History of the World, my post producer was a badass. Like, she just knew who to call. She knew what to say. She is the person, I watched her put it all together. She got the VFX in. She got the sound in. She got all the graphics in. She really molded it together and put it out the door for people to watch. And I thought that was so freaking cool. And I was like, guys, I kind of like post-production management. I think I was at a crossroads when I took my next job as a post PA, because I was like, if I take another post PA job, I know I'm going to fall in love with it more, and I'm going to move away from this editing goal or end game that I've wanted for a long time, and just knew that I wanted. So it's still kind of eating away at me, because I'll talk to some of my editors and they'll be like, hey, come watch me edit the scene, or watch me do just shadow me or whatever. And I'm like I really want to, but I also want to go in my post producer's room and just listen to her talk on the phone to vendors and make stuff happen. Yeah, so I wish I had 2 lives so that I could pursue editing in one and then be a post producer in another, but editing feels more like a hobby, which is how it started. And so I think I'm not making any decisions now, but it just feels like I'm on that track to become a post producer.
Is there a world where you do both, where you're like, yeah, I'll edit the short film because it's, I like editing and stuff like that.
I love editing.
There it is.
Yeah. So that part of me has not died. When I edit a short film, which I still do on the side, I am still in love with it.
Yeah.
I just love it on the side, and will nurture it that way. And if I'm going to be stressed and overworked or just trying to make a lot of money, I'll do that with post-producing, which I also love. So I'm gonna keep this baby pure.
Well, that's what I was gonna ask, is so when you decide you want to do an editing project on the side of your day job, which is the management, are you looking for things that just get you excited that you can play with? Or are you like, oh, this is my side hustle, I want to make an extra $200 this month, so I'm gonna take it? What kind of projects are you looking for?
If it's not a drama, I'm drawn to it. It's not at a point where I'm making any money. It's just for funsies. Yeah. And also if I have time, because there are points in the post-production process where it is not super busy.
Quiet.
Quiet,
busy.
quiet or
Monotonous.
busy. It's not very consistent. It's if I'm busy, I'll pass up a short film, but if it's quiet enough, I'll do it.
Christopher here, co-host of the Lot1 Podcast. Are you eager for real industry insights? Patreon's where it's at with the Lot1 Podcast After Show, untold stories, behind-the-scenes drama. Let's dive in. Subscribe at patreon.com/the Lot1 Podcast.
Speaking of short films, I know that you made a short film called When a Honeybee Stings, or you edited the short film.
Yeah.
I saw it.
Oh, you did?
Yeah, I did. It was good. I liked it. There's definitely moments in there where I was like, oh man, this acting is like, I was like, oh, this is some nice acting here.
Yeah.
What is your sort of process for that?
I rely heavily on script notes. Because
from like continuity or from like directors?
From myself, because usually I'll be on set script souping, and I'm on set looking as an editor already. So I'm like, okay, I like this shot, I like this take, I like just like I can already put it together in my head. So I can't remember all of that once I'm actually putting it together, but I wrote it all down, so it's there. So then I'll go off of that. Sometimes things won't work, and I won't know until I'm actually putting it together. It's just kind of like, oh, I kind of like this, the way that like she said this line, so let me put it in, but it doesn't work with the next line or something. I just have an image in my head before I actually put it together. I think I'm also very like organized, so I take a lot of time to organize the footage and like label things that I'll go through the footage and like mark like, okay, I like this, or I don't like this, don't use this, or whatever, or well, this could be used later, or I remember my director like this, so I just mark a lot. I have a lot of like, everything that I do is very calculated and organized. I don't know if it slows me down, but it definitely helps me make creative decisions. So
we're kind of getting to the end here. How do you sort of distinguish a style as an editor? Because I think sometimes the question that I've heard other people ask, I've talked to producers who have produced big things, and they're like, oh yeah, and you find an editor that's good, and I was like, oh, how do you know the editor is good? And they didn't really have an answer. They're like, that's really hard to understand, like when editors. So like for you, like, how do you distinguish yourself stylistically and then get better at it as an editor?
I really like long takes, so I think that's kind of like a notable style in my editing. Like I'll prolong stuff, and it's funny because sometimes my directors will be like, can you cut this earlier, like this is really long, but I'm like, wait, but like the emotion, it's not over. But I would consider myself a little bit more malleable, because now that I'm in a bigger studio and can see how other editors work, I realize that they're less creative and more just putting it together-y. Like they don't really they don't really have a style. Like they have a style and they can let that shine through. It just kind of depends on their relationship with the producer, the director. And they can give suggestions, and that would kind of express who they are. But at the end of the day, it's like what the studio wants or what the producers want, and it makes it they have less of a voice in it. But luckily, in my case, I've had very good relationships with my directors, so I can give kind of like bold choices or urge them to keep a long take, and they'll be like, yeah, this is good.
I think that's the key there. There's a great example. Gareth Edwards, who did Rogue One, they were in the editing room. I think it was really close to release of Rogue One. It was like 2 months before or something. Like they were almost done with it, and they were watching it, and the editor at the end, because I cut out a bunch of Darth Vader stuff and things like that, and the editor at the end was like, hey, you guys should add one last thing in here. Darth Vader just going through the hall, like doing something, just being a BA, right? Just like complete, just murking people. Like, you need to do that. It would add so much to it. And in the interview, they talk about how like he asked Kathleen Kennedy, the director, and she was like, all right, you got this budget. It's out in 2 months. You got to edit it like super quick, like go and do it. And it is one of the most infamous Star Wars scenes in the modern Star Wars, catalog of films and stuff. And it was like, that was filmed 2 months before the film released. And it was a suggestion of an editor, not the director, not the producer, nothing like that. So,
whoa,
yeah,
that's
which
really
is just
cool.
mind blowing.
Yeah, I remember watching that scene and getting goosebumps. I was like, whoa.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
And it's crazy.
Very
you mentioned
good.
this earlier. It's like, we don't, as viewers or even filmmakers, sometimes we don't understand the influence that even some of the lower positions have on the final product. Like, even in casting decisions, anything, like you don't know what trickles up to the top and how that affects everything down the line.
Yeah.
So it's like, you may not feel important, but what you are doing has some sort of up the waterfall effect that you probably just never realize.
Yeah.
Yeah. We are ready for your martini question, Chris. Lay it on us.
All right, you
Not on
always
me,
hype it up, but it's like,
it's very, very hyped. So hyped. It's, like, where's the explosions and the fireworks? Get ready.
Carlos, our editor, do that. So, if you were to give one piece of advice to anyone trying to become, whether it's an editor or just in post-production, what would that piece of advice be?
It's not, this is not so profound, but I would say continue to have fun doing it, or try to. A lot of the time it will get very stressful and not fun, and it takes the passion out of it. But I think if you remember that you are making something with your friends that other people will enjoy and will bring a smile to people's faces or change lives or make history, it makes it very rewarding. So at the end of the day, it's not that serious. We're making TV and film, but yeah, just continue to have fun.
Have fun.
Yeah, have fun.
I like that.
It's not profound, but yeah, have fun. Just remember that.
Nice.
Hey, a lot of people forget that in this industry.
Yeah.
So if you're not having fun, you could put that in any industry. If you're no longer having fun or enjoyment in it, why are you doing it?
Yeah.
I got one more question from the listeners, and that is, are they hiring?
Always. Yeah. Kind of just also have to be in the right place at the right time and know someone there. But now you know me. So, hi.
Awesome. Thank you so much for coming on the show and dropping the knowledge on the folks. Where can people find you and see the work that you've done?
I have a website. It's angelynrodriguez.com, and all of my work is on there. Mostly my short films and editing stuff.
Nice.
And my LinkedIn is on there. My Instagram is on there. So I think that's like a good central place to find me. So yeah, if anyone ever needs help, please reach out.
Nice. Awesome. Well, thanks so much for being on the show. And we'll talk to you next time.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Bye.
All right.
Bye.
Bye. Hey everybody, that's a wrap for today's episode of the Lot1 Podcast. Thanks for tuning in. If you enjoyed this episode, subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you listen to podcasts, and leave a review and share with your best friend in the whole world. You know who that person is. I don't know who it is, but you do, because it helps others find us. If you're not part of our exclusive Patreon community yet, head on over to patreon.com/the Lot1 Podcast. That is the Lot and then the number 1 podcast for early access, bonus content like the after show, and more. Also, I want to give a quick shout out to our incredible Patreon supporters because your backing keeps the Lot1 Podcast lights on. Connect with us on Instagram and TikTok at the Lot1 Podcast. That's the number 1 podcast for behind the scenes content and updates. We're now accepting listener mail, everyone. So if you got questions for us or our guests, drop us a line. We really want to hear from you. Also, if you're interested in finding out more about Lot1 Productions and all we've got going on, check us out at lot1productions.com. Again, it's the number 1, okay? Lot1 Productions. Very easy. Special thanks to Tourist Hat Coffee Company for sponsoring this week's episode. Head on over to touristhatcoffeecompany.com to redeem your exclusive buy 2, get 1 free deal with the promo code LOT1BOGO. That's LOT, the number 1, BOGO at checkout. Terms and conditions may apply. Again, that's LOT1BOGO at checkout. Until next time, folks, keep the creative fires burning, dream big, and remember, the filmmaking journey is a ride worth taking. See you next week.